Call the real property meeting to order. Check that off my list. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the prior meeting. John, Doug, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, let's go.
Okay, I'll get this over with first. My fall directors conference is in October, October 17th, 18th, and 19th. So I have to ask for permission to attend. So I'm asking for permission.
Attend.
I have to.
Is that a motion, Doug?
Yes, that's a motion to attend.
Okay.
I don't see a thing about it though.
Any questions, comments? All in
Lexi,
favor?
do you have the paperwork for that?
I do, it's right there. Dennis has it. The request sheet was sent out in your packets, but I didn't include it in these, but I can gladly
It's
share.
in Vernon, New York. She's
It
staying at
is.
the Vernon Downs.
Hotel Vernon, yeah.
All right. Play 4-7.
You know what, it saved a lot of money by going there. The, cost is only $79 a night for a hotel. We used to have it out in Syracuse at the Embassy Suites, and it was $95 a night. So 2 years ago, they moved it there, and, the location works, and they have plenty of conference space, so,
Good.
nice.
So,
It was, Any further comments? Everybody set? All in favor?
aye.
Against? Carried.
Okay, I just wanted to review over, some of the last chance properties. What typically happens is, we get phone calls after the last chance meeting with people saying, hey, I need a little more time, or like some of the people that didn't show, I reached out to them. So in there, you all have a kind of small list of just people that, had actually come to us looking for, extensions. The first one I believe you have is in Bolton Landing on Alderbrook Road. He was signed up for the last chance meeting, but he had no way of getting there, so he, was a no-show. So I, reached out to his wife. They're separated, but that was the only number I had, because she had called and signed him up. She gave me his cell phone number. I've since talked to him, and we've granted him an extension until September 30th. He had signed up for the last chance meeting, just didn't come. All of these that we do that are on this list, I run through the chairman, and he gives me approval to go ahead with whatever we decide. So that's what you're seeing on your list, are ones that I've spoke with Dennis. We do this every year. We used to do it with Fred. So that guy has until September 30th. The next one, I believe, that is on your list was in Queensbury at 61 Country Club. She was also signed up. Am I wrong? I'm sorry, no, I skipped, I'm so sorry. I forgot, I don't have them marked on here. Northwest Bay. Northwest Bay, their attorney, if you remember, was Dennis Phillips, who was at the last chance meeting. We had given them originally until September 30th to pay everything off. So they have spoke with myself, with Brian, and we've spoken with Dennis, and came to the agreement to allow them to pay off the installment agreement portion, which was the larger amount, and give them an extension until December 30th to pay the subsequent taxes. So, we had done that with quite a few other people. We gave them until the end of the year to, pay. So that is the agreement that we came to. I'm just reviewing all of these with you. They did come in yesterday, 2 days ago, I believe.
Yeah.
And paid, their installment agreement off. So they did, come clean on that. Now they just have to pay the subsequent taxes by December 30th.
So when you say, then to pay the subsequent taxes by
Because they-
12/30. That's all taxes in the arrears, correct?
Yes, the 14, 15, and January of 16 is in there as well.
And so what are the implications of those 3 months?
The amount,
No, what are the implications in terms of the process?
I think they're off for this year.
yes, they will not go to.
He's asked for extra time to come up with the remaining monies.
So
And he wanted to
What if they don't come up with the extra money?
Well, then
it
he
would be
go-
in next year's
Next year.
foreclosure.
goes in next year's foreclosure. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to flip the two. One was like 40,000, the other was like 20,000. But that's not protocol, that's not what we do. So we refused to do that because we didn't wanna set a precedent.
Well, it's one thing-
So he came in and paid the 40.
It's one thing to
I don't think he overpaid.
provide the extension to the end of the month, as we did. But just refresh my memory, what was the original installment agreement that they had agreed to?
It was from 2003 to 2013, because they had a bunch of litigation that went on. There was, I believe, a bankruptcy, so there was a lot, and that's what kept pulling it out, so we couldn't do the foreclosure prior. So that's why they ended up with so many years in the installment agreement to begin with. So, and then they defaulted on the installment agreement, and they owed, it was 39,000 and change, so that's what they paid off. Now, they have current taxes due again, so that's what we're giving them until the end of the year to pay 14, 15, and 16 taxes off by December 30th. If not, the property will be in 2017's foreclosure.
I'm not sure if this is how you're feeling, but my thought is, I'm not sure how these agreements to December are happening without our having gone through the full committee
Because
process.
what's happened in the this has always just been the protocol in the past, that after that last chance meeting, I've always gone to the chairman of the committee for approval, and then they get discussed afterwards. I mean, if you wanna handle it a different way, I guess.
Claudia, it goes back
suggestions can be
to, the board's interest in keeping people on their own property, keeping them in their homes. So we look at it, once you go past the last chance meeting, then, and there are only a few of them, then we look at each individual case, and basically what you're trying to do is negotiate the best deal you can, and give them the opportunity to make themselves whole. In this case, I mean, we got $40,000 that we didn't have 2 days ago. Will we get the rest? Probably somehow we will, but I don't know, not sure he's gonna make it.
What's the dollar amount?
20,000.
Currently, it's 28,000, I think.
28 for the balance, to be current?
14, 15, and 16, bear in mind, and I made sure that they were aware of this, there is a 1% interest added on every month. So there will be additional interest added on through December.
The other thing is this is a unusual situation. The property we're talking about is a common area lot in a subdivision. So this guy owns a subdivision lot. It has the marina on it.
No, there's 4 lots,
Well,
and
there's
they're up
4
on
total,
top of
but
the hill.
one of them is.
Well,
Isn't one of them the
because what
marina or
happens
not?
is that's part of the other 7 lots. Those ones
marina?
are already paid, where he has the docks and everything, those are part of the other lots. These all just have, they're an actual subdivision lot that a house could be built on them. He has a total of 11 lots in the subdivision. The other 7, I believe they are all current, I know they're current, but they're in the process of a foreclosure action against them from one of the mortgage holders. these four are not in that matter. So, these are four that he's come up with the money to pay.
Okay, I stand corrected.
We've
Yes,
taken
Claudia.
possession of the, 40-something thousand, he's paid the 40-something thousand.
It was $39,817.62, I believe, but he paid that already.
Certified checks on that.
Yes. So that money we have, it's the current taxes that are owed, that were not part of the installment agreement, so 14, 15, and 16.
At this point in the game, we only accept cash or certified loans.
Claudia, did you have something else you want?
No, I'm okay.
Sure. Craig?
So for clarification, they paid off the installment, so that's all taken care of. But what is in arrears would have been going on to tax sale if this extension was not granted
Correct.
to December.
Correct.
Okay.
Because
Well,
it's
just,
2
that
years.
extension was the same that was granted to several other parties
Yes.
to the end of December.
And this was-
Steve Basil was one of them, there was a couple others that, the last chance meeting would extend them to December, the end of December.
There was numerous
That's
properties.
why when we discussed this, we said, okay, you've already set that precedent of giving a couple of them to the end of December. We'll go with this one.
We gave it to the Thompson Estate, which is the garage that, Attorney Carr came in and represented. We gave them till the end of December. We gave Rebecca Mulvey till the end of December. Fagiano, we gave to the end of December. John Fazio, which is Sweet Basil, they had till the end of December. And there was another one on Wolf Pond because she was going into an, reverse mortgage. We gave her till the end of December because she didn't turn 62 until November.
Mr. Chairman?
I didn't see this meeting, but wasn't this a controversial one where guys were arguing
Yeah.
about? But is the concern that if you give them the end of December and they welch and they don't pay the taxes at the end of December, what happens? Then you go through the whole procedure again? Is that what the concern is?
That's not my concern. I mean, I understand that we're bumping them out a year, which, you know, maybe you like, maybe you don't like. My thought is, maybe next year, we don't need to have the full committee sit at the last chance meeting if these kind of agreements are able to be reached without the full committee's approval.
Well, you're talking about a handful of agreements after the last chance,
Right.
and you cleared about, how many properties did we clear in last chance?
I'm not saying get rid of the last chance meeting. It just seems it could be.
I think though
Much
past
more.
history is, you know, if somebody brings in a compelling argument after the last chance meeting, that they would confer, or they didn't show up, they would always confer with the chairman of the committee, and I know it's been done when Fred was chairman, and then they would confer with the county attorney and see if it's okay, and then they would grant an extension. I mean, I don't think it's done a lot, and I think it's done on a case-by-case basis, but I don't think, that's the way I know. I mean, usually it's done by committee, but when Fred was chairman, they would bring extenuating circumstances to him after the fact, and, like I said, like you all said, at the board meeting, you're trying to keep people in their places. I think that's it.
The other thing, Claudia, is there's a lot of negotiations going on with these, so.
Right,
I want John-
I'm fine with that. I'm saying
Okay.
let's streamline it.
Yeah, no, I
and-
understand.
All right.
Okay.
But let me ask the question then, how then, if they need to bring all of this current, and that's what the, agreement that was entered into stated, you'd have to bring all years current by a certain date. So basically, what we're doing is we're, refinancing the refinancing plan.
Well,
And
no, because the installment agreement is paid off, so it's not like we're redoing the installment agreement. That's why we agreed that they would have to pay off that installment agreement and be done with that. And then, now what they're going to do, they've agreed to pay all the subsequent taxes by the end of the year.
Well,
It's
that's a
in
two-parter.
chronological order. He had a payment by installment plan prior to going into the bankruptcy thing, which tied everything up. So, while the bankruptcy went on, we were accumulating taxes that he wasn't paying as well. So he's got two issues, his original installment plan and the back taxes since he got the original installment plan. So our opinion was, Alexi and Mike and I, was that he needed to pay off the installment plan, that was first. So before he could do anything else, he needed to at least pay that off. So once he paid that off, then he was like the other people here. He didn't pay taxes and he's in arrears, and we gave him to the 31st of December to try to straighten it out.
I think I agree with Kevin. I mean, I actually like the process. You know, if we wait for a committee meeting on some of these issues, it'll never get done, okay?
Well,
So you just
yeah,
gotta
that was
kinda.
my point I was gonna make to Claudia is, I mean, I went down every other day there for a week with Claudia and with, Mike, 'cause they were negotiating. Well, if we do this, you do that, no, we're not doing that.
I mean, it was phone tag and having him come, I'd come up here and catch him at a meeting and be like, can you come talk to me after? And, you know, it would become a little more difficult if I had to try to reach out to everybody on the committee to get a complete consensus. That's why we bring them today to the meeting, to just have a final discussion and make you aware of any of the ones that were made.
On the other hand, I mean, we sit at a meeting like that and we get a very angry neighbor that's embroiled in with the principal here, I forget his name, and he was not a happy camper, okay?
He's part of the homeowners association
and he appeared to have some valid issues, looking at it from his perspective, so, you know,
It's a
delicate.
it's a balancing act, but I think I mean, in the end, what happens through this process is the property is made ready for redevelopment and/or being put back on the tax rolls so that somebody can make productive use of the property in some fashion. And there's a lot of history here over a long period of time, not a year or two. And, you know, my concern is that I'm not sure that the last chance concept applies well to this, to be candid. We're not talking about somebody's home here, we're not talking about somebody losing whatever, we're talking about complicated matters of real estate that we then embed ourselves in. And that's where I have concerns in this regard. This is not something that happened yesterday. So I'm a little torn here. I have to tell you. I think my inclination right now is to vote no on this particular item. To be candid, what's that? Or is this agreement already been? Is this something that has been administratively?
That's
We've
my
accepted
point.
money.
That's my point, Ron.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then I've raised my concerns, and I guess we can move on.
I'll put a little red check by your name here, Ron.
I know, Mr. Chairman, that worries me a little
Does
bit.
that mean no gold star today?
Never Ron.
You see my point. You see my point, yeah.
You're right in one respect, there's nobody's house involved here, but, he is, embroiled with all his neighbors. So it's not just a single individual who's defaulting on his taxes, he's dragged all his neighbors into it. Peter?
I'd just like to reinforce what Supervisor Conover said, you know, the principle of a homestead versus fundamentally a commercial development that's a huge gap, okay? I mean, I lived in Texas for a while, and they have a homestead law in Texas where you have great difficulty taking someone's primary residence, and it goes back to the turn of the century and banking laws and people, acting in very aggressive and dishonest ways. So again, big gap between the principle of a homestead and fundamentally a commercial residence. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
I'm not arguing with you,
Yeah.
but it's not commercial, it's residential. Anybody else?
I hate to keep, I have one other question. I really hate to do this, but I just gotta know for my own. So, if he doesn't pay the 31st, now is he gonna get to come in front of the committee next year and make a plea?
That's the committee's choice, whether to allow him or not, because
Well-
we gave him this extension just till December 30th
Because
to pay.
sometimes we have a history of people who use this as a sport. You know, they prey upon us, and then the board will make a decision that's favorable to them, but then all of a sudden, you know, then Mike will call and say, you know, you made that decision, although we got lucky with our guy, he paid in full last year, but, you know, will this thing go, just say he doesn't pay those taxes, so he'll owe 3 years, plus he's accumulating he'll owe 2016 too, so.
He owes January 2016 currently, yep.
Right, but, he owes it now, but then, you know, you never know about school tax, and we pay that. So January 1st next year, it appears on your list again, because he didn't pay.
Correct.
We go through the same procedure, and will he come with the same story? I think that's what,
Well, but it also, I just want to be absolutely clear, my understanding was that the law requires that, it be brought current. And what we were trying to do here was give any applicant the time before the foreclosure procedure to come current. Come September 30th, while he may have paid the original agreement, is he current under the law? Can we even?
He is not current.
Is not current.
Vacant
And so my
land.
question to the attorney then becomes, if he is not current, and the law requires him to be satisfied on all matters, because I can recall that we went, you recall we had to go in front of a judge at one point in time to actually get approval.
Yeah.
Because the applicant wasn't, the thing wasn't current. So I don't want to take too much time here, but I'm a little concerned in that regard as well. In other words, what specifically does the law provide for here?
Well, the law basically says the last day to redeem is July 13th, or this year.
Well, this year was an
August,
extension,
whatever
yes.
it was, and that's it.
This
So
year they
everything
had
we're
until
doing
August 12th.
After that, really is outside of the context of the law.
The neighboring counties do not offer a last chance meeting like we do here in our
No, I
county.
understand. But September 30th does not foreclose the process of foreclosure for that year. Well, what this is doing is, this is basically putting us into the next
Correct.
tax year. And that's my point, is that where do we even have the authority to, by statute? It's one thing to say, oh, okay, July, but we're gonna do it in September, but if it's not done by September, that's it, because it's gotta go into the, this is basically saying, well, we know that what the law is, but we're gonna do this.
Well, that's what the last chance meeting does, because the
Right, the
law,
last
the
day to redeem was
Uniform
August
Enforcement
12th.
Act says that once you set that last day to redeem, that's it. There is no, I don't have legal authority to actually accept payments after that date. Okay, so.
That's,
But you
Let-
hold
let's-
this last chance meeting after that last day to redeem.
that's
So-
true, but we're doing it between that and when the tax sale foreclosure process commences. So
Yeah.
in effect, we're not foreclosing that by an additional 30 or 60 days. And I'm not saying that, all I'm saying is that this action in particular, does foreclose that for an entire year. That's my point, and from a legal point of view, it's one thing to go in front of, have to go in front of a judge and say, well, we've
already
we
established
moved
that
at 30 days, or we moved at 45 days, but we didn't foreclose the intent of the law, which is to provide enough time to go through this process. But now, what we're doing is we're administratively now taking a step that goes beyond that, and that's.
I agree with you 100%. However, at this meeting, there was a precedent set by allowing John Fazio, who owes us $60,000, and is in, I believe, is he in an installment agreement?
Yeah,
I believe he,
defaulted yet.
right, it's a defaulted installment agreement, and we granted him until the end of the year to come up, because he only had $40,000, he didn't have enough to pay off. So he needed till the end of the year to come up with the remainder of his money. So it's kind of like we did the same thing with him, it's just, we came to that agreement at the last chance meeting, not after the fact.
Mary, I think way back when he had a question.
I did.
About our legal, I think the question is, what's our legal status once we extend it out to December 30th?
If you enter into some sort of agreement, and I apologize, I haven't been, part of this process, so I don't know if there was a signed agreement or if it's just sort of word of mouth sort of thing. But if you enter into a signed agreement, you have to honor that, but I'm not sure how it exactly went in these.
So you're
I know,
telling us
it's just
Brian
verbal.
didn't do a good job?
There's nothing in writing, that the attorney did not sign anything, neither did his client, Mr. O'Brien, whose property is, it was basically verbal. But that's the way it's always been, I don't,
Well, the bottom line is we got almost $40,000 out of him, and we extended him to December 30th, as we've done with several other people. Is residential, there is no home involved. And he has other financial issues far beyond his taxes, so I'd be surprised, if he doesn't pay by December 30th, I'll be surprised if he's still in ownership by next year.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes, Craig.
on process, so when a property goes into foreclosure and it's sold at tax sale, and let's say there's $30,000 outstanding going into that sale, is that $30,000 then erased and the county never sees it, they only get whatever proceeds come from that sale?
we make our money on the overall auction. So somebody may only owe 10,000, we may only sell it for 5,000.
Okay,
But somebody may only owe 5,000, and we sell it for 10,000.
okay.
So the money gets made up on the overall whole auction.
Okay, thank you.
The auction, gross sales far exceed the taxes that are owed. That's that fund we set aside for, and we're gonna discuss a couple of them in a minute. That's the fund we set aside to do the environmental things, to make a property whole again.
Portion
That's
of
where
it.
that money came from those back taxes and the auction.
Like, what would we have made last year, Lexi, on what would the county have made from the difference of what was owed to the difference of how much
Ooh,
was sold
off the
for?
top of my head, I'd have to go back to last
I was
year's
just
numbers.
curious. That's right, I was just curious.
I don't.
Well, a better
off
question
the
is, how
top
much
of
is in that fund, do you know?
That would be a treasurer's
You know, Mike?
question, that's not my fund.
How much is in the fund from the
Reserve
tax
testing
sales?
fund.
Well, I'm going by memory, and this will be, Rob's gonna be kicking me, but I think it's somewhere between 150 and 160,000 we have right now.
Okay. So that'll give you some idea what it is.
Yeah, that could be, I
We
was
have
just,
25
started
to
to spend some of it
150.
down, so it may be less than that, but
Right.
that's not all the listings of auction.
No, that is not all the money, that is just a portion of the money, because we set it up, we took a large chunk the first year we set it up, and then after that, it's decreased the percent that we put into the reserve testing fund.
We take a percentage
25%.
of whatever, all right, how do I explain it? We're budgeted for $150,000, profit, I guess, for lack of a better term, on the auction. So we take whatever is owed in taxes, plus $150,000, and then anything over that amount, we take a percentage of that and put it into the environmental fund.
Okay. Well, that's totally
think
different
just-
what I thought it was.
I mean, if we can enter into an agreement, there's nothing that, I guess we're gonna do about it today. My primary concern is, it's one thing to have a process because we wanna have a heart, and we want to take every extreme to try to ensure that people are able to keep their property. My concern would be that going forward, I think it's very important to ensure that process, that people don't game the process. You understand what I'm saying? We're very sharp people out there, very smart people out there, and so that's my concern. it's one thing to have a heart, and I think we all do, and I think we've demonstrated that since this was created. It's another thing to, I think we need to be careful going forward that, because there's lots of developments out there, a lot of developers, a lot of real estate, commercial developers, you name it. And I don't know that we really want to send a signal that,
Well, you need, if you want to change the process, we need to get to it and do it.
I mean, we could easily change the process to, in between the last chance meeting and my next committee meeting, which obviously everything got changed this year. Normally, the last chance meeting is in the beginning of August, so I would be having a meeting well, I don't even know if I'd have one at the end of August, but we could always just bring it back completely to committee and let the committee decide at that point what you wanna have done. I've just filed suit that's happened in the past, years that I've been the director. We've always gone to the chairman for approval, but we could change that process.
Claudia?
Yeah, I would like to see us change that process and include a change to the last chance meeting. I'm saying we should still give people a last chance, but I don't think we need to make that an entire meeting where every fellow resident sits there listening to every other fellow resident trying to make their case to this committee. I mean, the director certainly has a hand on what's going on, and she could make those decisions within guidelines we set and then bring it back to us in August or early September. And then that would be the final say. Because I think that meeting in that format takes a lot of time, and it doesn't give anybody privacy about what's going on with their particular situation and their finances and all, their health. And, you know, if we set parameters, then we work within those. The director can make the decision, an initial decision. And then what happens after that? I mean, we'll have to come up with some other procedure for these
Well,
really
why don't
second,
you,
third chances.
why don't you, Claudia, flush something out and bring it
Something
back
out?
to us and we'll discuss it. Frank?
I just think in all of this, we need to remember the people that actually pay their taxes on time and are not in front. They deserve some recognition here too. I mean, people that are paying their taxes, there are other people, this chance and that chance, and now we're at the end of the year, which is pushed it into another year. I mean, you know, you have to draw a line here somewhere. I mean, I see people in my office, they bring in to make their installment payments, literally counting pennies out on the counter to make sure that they make their installment payments on time.
I just would remind the committee, this particular item we've discussed, goes back to what year?
2003 through
Right, now you don't-
2013 was the
You don't
installment
need to say,
agreement.
I mean, really, you don't need to say any more, do you, than that? Right? Say that again, that's 2003?
2003 through 2013 was the installment agreement that he paid off.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the direction we're going in here. We set this last chance meeting up to give people a last chance. Frank made a good point. You know, 98% of the people pay their taxes, for whatever it takes. So we're dealing with a small percentage here. But you take that small percentage, and over the years, we've kept a lot of people in their homes by going the extra yard here. Now, I don't mind tweaking it and doing whatever you wanna do, but I'd be very opposed to making it more difficult than it needs to be. John?
I agree with you, Dennis, and I think, Claudia, that there is a value to these people coming in public, before the board, and making a commitment. It's not done in a little back room in private. It's a public, before the board commitment. I think there is some value to that.
Thank you, John. Doug?
Yeah, and I agree with you too, Dennis, and, let's not forget that we're charging them 1% interest every month too, so it's not like it's scot-free. But I totally respect the people who pay their taxes on time, because things would break down if we didn't. So 99% pay on time, 1% do not, for a host of different reasons. We give them the opportunity. We do penalize them though for paying late. So there is a penalty in there, you know, and you could argue if that's enough or too much or whatever, but I think the process, I'm comfortable with the process the way we work it now, and that's why I just.
I appreciate that, Doug. I am as well, but I would, certainly entertain, some proposal from you, Claudia, if you think there's something else we do, and the same with you, Ron. If you think, if you wanna give the chairman more guidelines to help him with Lex and, Mike to figure these out, I don't have a problem with that either.
I mean, I'll be willing to work with you on any of
Okay,
it.
so let's revisit that next meeting, and we'll hear from Ron and Claudia, and, right now I'd like to hear from Alexi.
Okay, I believe the next one on your list for.
Don't do that again.
You wanna skip over these completely?
Yes.
I'm okay with that, if you're all okay with that.
No, I'd like an update for the committee.
You would? Okay.
You only got two of them, three of them.
Yeah, just a few here. So, the next one was a no-show for the last chance meeting. The lady has a lot of health issues. She explained to me that she's had over 60 surgeries, and she has more to come. A lot of back issues, knees, legs. She is a single mom with 2 children. And so she was unable to get here that day because when she got up that morning, she could not get out of bed. So she had no way of getting here. We granted her an extension till the end of the year. She has listed her property for sale. They listed it on this past weekend with a realtor, so it's now listed and she's going to sell her home. I could cry for her because I'm the one that spoke to her, and it's a sad situation. So she's at least gonna try to sell her house, have money to still live within the school district because that's where her kids go to school. And she doesn't wanna pull them out of that. Sorry.
That's quite all right.
The next
How
property,
how much does she owe, Lex?
she owes about $20,000 in taxes.
Oof.
It's just a very hard situation. I don't really wanna get into all that with you
No,
guys,
no,
so.
Curious. Okay,
But
thank you.
they have since listed their house, and hopefully she'll make out okay. The next one is also in Queensbury, down on Dix Avenue. It was Silvernail Properties, Inc. It was a truck terminal, distribution center. The attorney, there was actually the day of the last chance meeting, one of the realtors came for this property. He sat in the back of the room, and when I asked at the end of the meeting if there was anybody else that needed to speak in regards to a property, I guess because I didn't say the name of their property or them, I didn't know he was there. They didn't sign to come to the last chance meeting. He was there to represent this property, but he never spoke. So, anyways, an attorney brought in paperwork, showing the letter of intent of the sale. They do have a $10,000 deposit. Argyle something, of course I don't have the thing with me, it's like a cheese producing. Yogurt. There you go, I thought they said cheese, but if you wanna go with yogurt, we'll go with that. So,
I like them both.
they are in the midst of getting some inspections done, and everything, so they are hoping to be able to close, and so we did grant them until the end of the year to get this all figured out and get it paid.
I did, to go back to Ron's concerns, I did, talk to Brian and had our attorney, and, asked him to contact the attorney in question and verify that it was an actual arm's length sale and they were really gonna sell it and not playing games, and he confirmed they had a contract and it was a sale, and so I think we'll be all right there.
The next one's in the town of Thurman. They were at the last chance meeting. We originally granted them until September 30th. Mr. Kaysen. The owner has come into my office. He also came into the county attorney's office and, met with, Brian. I believe he spoke with Dennis on the phone as well. They're really struggling to come up with the money by the 30th. So, Dennis granted him an extension until October 12th. So that is prior to the auction. So I did speak with her this morning. She actually called my office first thing this morning and confirmed that they had till the end of business on the 12th. And I said they had until, I believe, it was 4:30 in the treasurer's office to take the money. So I suggested that they be there by 4 o'clock. And she said, okay. So, and I believe that was the
I
last one on my list.
did allow him to, have some extra time, truthfully, there wasn't much basis for it, other than the fact that he did call me, he was very emotional. It's a trailer, it's a tough situation. You got anything else for us, Lex?
I do. Next would be, I just wanted to do a little review with the, Johnsburg parcel as well as the Warrensburg parcel. I think first in your packet, I think, is the Warrensburg parcel. So I gave you the sheet from the conclusions and recommendations from, Ecosystem Strategies, the company that did the preliminary Phase 2 environmental assessment. Everything looks really good there. The only thing that they recommend that borings be extended within the on-site building and soil vapor samples collected to document the presence or absence of subsurface impacts from historical releases to the floor drains. All of that falls under the site characterization that we had already discussed before, so that money we have still set aside that we just need to get moved over, but that was already put through in a prior resolution. I have reached out to Ecosystems, and we have a date of October 6th that they are going to be on site in Warrensburg to do those borings of the floor, to get those samplings. Everything else came back very good. I don't know if you've had the chance to read what's in front of you. The geophysical survey found no evidence of previously unknown underground storage tanks at the property, so there was no further recommendation or investigation recommended. A building inspection documented the presence of small quantity containers in 55-gallon drums containing petroleum, solvents, and/or paints. They did give us a list of those products, and we're presently working on trying to see if we can get them removed. I know Mike's reached out to a man, waiting to hear back from him. I've also reached out to Jeff at DPW to see if possibly they can be disposed of that way as well, instead of having to go out and try to find a company to dispose of them, because if it came down to that, we'd have to, I believe, do an RFP to get somebody in here to dispose of them, and the quantity is very small. In the 55-gallon drum, there was only a half inch of waste oil that was in that drum. There was 6 5-gallon cans of hydraulic oil, 1 5-gallon can of parts washing fluid. There was 6 empty 5-gallon containers. There was 8 1-gallon containers of paint, 3 1-quart containers of paint, 1 gallon of an aluminum degreaser, and 1 quart of waste oil. So, if they're saying that only one of them was waste oil, then I would assume the other ones are good products, but we don't know that, because I don't know that stuff. I'm going based on what they're stating. Yes.
Have Warren County DPW pick them up.
Well, I was gonna say, I know where there's a garage sale this weekend, you can set up free on 'em.
Yeah, but
Free, that's a
I
good
heard they'll be
idea.
long gone. Mr. Conover.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the, recommendations, on the Johnsburg site, item 2,
Jumped ahead of us.
what's the next step? Is the idea that, are they telling us that there's petroleum in the tank? And if there is petroleum in the tank, because they say that, what do they say, there could be their presence in the ground is, that the tanks have not significantly subsided. However, their continued presence on the site represents the threat of a potential release. So, would you view it as our responsibility to remedy the situation as soon as possible? And if only to pump out that tank, but I would say let's get it out of the ground. Is that the approach that
Yeah, I reached out, I gave both of these reports to, Russell Hike up in DEC, who then turned me over to a Stephen Pasco, I think it is, in, Warrensburg's DEC, because of the fact that they're asking for us to forward these so that the closure of the spill number could be done. However, he said that that couldn't be done until the tanks are removed from the ground. So basically, I'm feeling like it's our responsibility to get those tanks out of the ground somehow. And at that point, then that spill number could be closed, and then we could foreclose on these and hopefully sell it and get it back on the market, or back on the tax roll.
Dennis?
Yes, Michael?
I just, we have authority from the courts to test.
Right.
I do not know whether we have authority to remedy. Okay, this is the question we're gonna have to run by legal. Before we start trying to clean up any sites, we gotta make sure we're on legal ground to actually go on the property and do that. I don't know if we are. We may, I don't know. But, that's the first step before we make a decision as to whether or not we want to
Included in temporary ownership.
Do you wanna, take care of that, Alex?
I would think it would come down to the attorney's office, would have to look into, because we have temporary incidents of ownership right now. Is that covered under that temporary incidents of ownership?
Well, it was when we did our brownfield projects in Warrensburg. We went to the courts and had temporary ownership of those properties and cleaned them up.
Well, we may, I'm just saying.
Right,
before
we
do
don't know
anything,
that,
we
we're
better make
just
sure we're on the
asking
legal
for
ground
a
to do it,
legal
that's all.
opinion.
You just have to look at what you filed in the court documents. Because that's what happened when we did the brownfield cleanups.
So I agree with you, Kevin, I just don't
You,
know.
As far as the Warrensburg property, I would just I would get a environmental firm in there just to pick those cans up and dispose of them. I can't believe it would cost a ton of money just to come in there and
No,
take them.
and I've talked to the person that we have a contract with.
Well, don't we have,
Yeah, and they
environmental?
just haven't gotten back to me yet as to
Yeah.
what they can do, but I don't think that there's gonna be a problem there.
I mean, the products that were all found there is stuff that DPW uses and has to dispose of anyways for their stuff, so, otherwise, though, if I have to put it out there, I have to do an RFP.
not if we have somebody under contract for environmental.
Well,
cleanup.
no, we could, right,
Yeah.
use that, and that's what Mike was checking into, but I'm saying otherwise, we would have to.
Because I'm sure we get rid of oils at the DPW shop all the
Yeah,
time.
I mean, it's just, they haven't gotten back to me yet.
It shouldn't be a big deal. Okay.
Mary, would you take that back and give us a response? Thank you. Do we wanna wait till next month for that response, or do we want whomever to proceed?
Well, I mean,
If we have the
I would
right-
like to proceed, but I just want everyone to understand that, you know, the pulling of the tank, then once that happens, then there's, further, testing, and that, you know, this isn't, just bring somebody in $1,000, pull a tank, and away you go. That there could be follow-on, soil, extraction, there could be, who knows what. I just,
We should also check with DEC, because didn't they revitalize the brownfield program? Something, aren't they calling it something, and there may be Clean Harbors, there may be money under, spill programs to help us pay for some of this. I think we should look at that too.
I would like to get that tank and whatever.
Be nice to get out of the ground.
I would, but I just want everyone to understand that, you know.
Well, let's leave it on the agenda, we'll get an answer to the legal question, then next month we can decide what we want to do.
I can also reach out to our current company and just see what type of fees they would charge to do something like that. See if we could continue with them, or if we would have to put it back out there.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it. Next would just be my budget review.
Lexi, while we're on the topic of potential contaminated property,
Mhm.
any update on the Mullen property on Bay Road?
Not at this time. I don't have anything right now.
Do we need to spur that along, get that to the next step, or?
We do, there's some other properties as well. I think there's something in Chester we need to talk about. There is also something in Johnsburg we need to talk about as well. I just have to get more information on the Chester property and the Johnsburg property to bring that back. I could reach back out to DEC and see where that got left with that property. I don't know if I think last, if I'm remembering, they wanted to come down and, cause we had given them what we had from the testing that we had done. They reviewed it, they were really hoping to kinda get a business to come in there, because then I can't remember what it was, if it was a business that came in and worked with them to do the cleanup, there was another type of grant. That's why at that time, we thought possibly Bard would have been interested in the property. I believe Mike had spoke to somebody at Bard, and they were not really interested. So that kind of fell through because the DEC guy was willing to come down and talk with them, meet with them, and talk to them about the property. So that's kind of where that got left, and it didn't get moved forward.
Well, the first review was promising. I mean,
Mhm.
we expected the worst, and it didn't appear to be that way, and they suggested that they go to the next step. And I guess we just never went to the next step.
That's what we need to do now. We've been concentrating on some of these other parcels, and that's the next one.
All right, so
Mhm.
when can I get like a analogy of when we're gonna do that?
Well, the big thing for me right now is to get through my tax sale. So, that is October 15th. So I will try in between to reach out to DEC, see where we stand and what we need to do to move it forward, since we didn't have an interested, party in the neighbor, and see what's out there that's available for us.
All right, that would work, thank you, Alexis. The other piece of property that I am concerned about that may be contaminated is a Ridge Road car care. Now, I understand that's up for auction,
Is that the one that burned?
and
Yes.
so if it doesn't sell at the auction, does the county gain possession and ownership of it?
Yes.
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 That's
So if we
generally-
gain possession and ownership of it, it's contaminated with asbestos, and I was told that it would cost between $130,000 to clean it up. I don't think that's a comfortable position to be in. However, Chazen, which is trying to get a hold of me now, may be trying to get a hold of me to tell me, the status of their, asbestos study. So, you know, I've Chazen come.
No, who hired Chazen to go
I
in
did.
and do a study?
Well, the town of Queensbury did.
How could you have somebody go on the property if you didn't have temporary incident of
I
ownership?
did have permission to go on the property from the owner of the property.
Okay.
But that opens you up to the liability. If you find something, you may end up having to fix it up anyway, without that court order behind it.
Well, what the Department of Labor said after the EPA did their study and found that they didn't think there was any friable asbestos on site or nothing to be significant. And so they said, so I called the Department of Labor, who's really in control here, not the DEC. Department of Labor says, listen, if you go and get an independent study, and I guess that's not the owner of Ridge Road Car Care, so who else would obtain an independent study other than the town? So I guess I had no other option. Would get it, and it turned out to be negative in terms of asbestos, then go ahead and clean it up. The owner said to me that, in an email, that if that's the case, there's no asbestos, I'll clean up the site. So, I'm hoping any day, and like I say, there's a couple things Chasen's working on, and I'm hoping that some phone call that's coming in might be about the asbestos issue. So we might know before it comes up for sale. So if we know before it comes up for sale and we get a commitment from the owner to clean it up, I don't know, you know, maybe the county can forego gaining possession of it, because I don't think it'll be the best thing for us if we do gain possession of this piece of property. I can't see anybody bidding on it.
He still has outstanding taxes on the property. So is he going to pay off the outstanding taxes before he decides to
I
clean it up? Because
assume-
otherwise, I mean, it's in the process of us taking title now.
I assume he owes 2 years of tax.
Possibly,
Well, it's a commercial property.
commercial and vacant.
Yeah, but he
Got
has to
2
pay
pieces of
current
land
fee.
there.
All right. So I'm assuming, I can't speak for him, I'm just assuming that if I can hand the Department of Labor no asbestos, the owner in an email says he's committed to cleaning it up. If we could get those ducks in a row and avoid the county from taking possession of this property, that would be a good thing. If the property turns out to be positive and the county takes possession of this property, that's not a good thing, not in my eyes. So, I just wanna bring this all to your attention.
What do you think that email's worth?
You gonna find out.
No,
Uh,
we're not gonna find out.
Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, I may have missed this, and if I did, I apologize, but getting back to, the conclusions and recommendations on the, for Hurricane Avenue in Warrensburg, Lexi, or this county treasurer, Mr. Swan, what's the next step relative to item 3?
Do the test board.
We have them scheduled to come on the property on October 6th.
Okay.
They're gonna be there in the morning to do the testing. They're going to bore into the floor,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can figure out what's underneath, where those drains are going through to, and to see if there's contaminants under the building or not. So we've set that up, and they'll be there.
So we'll know more.
We'll know more, and it'll probably be not my October meeting, hopefully my November meeting, that I can relay that information to you.
Hopefully the good news.
Right.
In Johnsburg, we're just waiting to hear back from DEC, on the report that we sent to them to how we're gonna go forward and figure out on the and aspect of whether we can actually go on.
Right, we
Because
need
we
to
also,
find out
I've
from
also
Mary.
asked DEC for their thoughts on an estimate, of what it might cost to fill those tanks, because they've done this multiple times, to see whether that's something that we have the money to deal with.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alex, you wanna breeze through your budget? We labor over for hours?
Okay. Budget. The first one in your packet is my supplies to town, which is, it's where all of, in the revenue part of it is, where all my money comes from, for town bills. So all of our supplies that we use throughout the year, we purchase through the expense account, and then we turn around and, those get billed back out, our supplies. So whether it be to the schools, or it be to the towns for the books, or the binders, or the paper for the tax bills. So that's, basically the same numbers that we used last year, the 10,000 and the 10,000. And we've just kinda left it there. Those numbers are usually a wash within each other. They're never exactly the same. Just because you buy supplies, they tend to roll over to the next year as well. And then what we bill out to, the towns or the schools. The other part is the 1355, that's the actual real property budget. The 1251 in the revenue code is my school bill processing fees. That has decreased, because of the town of Queensbury had bought they went in and did a bill program so that they could print the school bills, because they collect for Queensbury School. So this is still a reflection of that. They wanted barcodes on theirs. so, that decreased it, yeah, that might be yours, I don't know. Actually, you know what, Jean probably doesn't have one, this is probably his. The 2229 is, my sales data transmission, which is the stuff to the state of New York, because we enter in, for SalesNet and SalesScan, so we get paid 50 cents a parcel for all the, transfers that happen throughout the year. And then the, 3040, which is real property tax admin, that's like the training reimbursement. I'm only reimbursed for my continuing ed now that I'm certified, so that number dropped, because now I'll just be taking continuing ed instead of getting all my courses that I needed for certification. Expenses. 422, I believe. That decreased by like $100. I decreased the phone bill by like $25. I decreased the postage by $25. Anything that you see under the 470 where it says contract, I don't have any contracts, but that money is where the, reserve testing fund money gets put, is into 470, so any money that you see in there is money that's been moved out of that reserve account to my budget for any of the testing funds. Not much change.
Mr. Chairman? Move
Yes.
move to approve.
Second?
One other thing, though, I did want to
Peter?
quick mention, if I
Second.
could, sorry. I did also, I know it doesn't reflect in the budget, but I did put in for a raise for my deputy director. I've passed information on to the budget officer and the, budget committee for review of that, and those decisions get made at a later date. But other than that, that's all I have.
Your motion still stand,
You bet.
Peter? Okay, any further questions, comments, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Missed it.
The budget looks beautiful, thank you.
Anything else, Lex?
No, that's all I,
It's less.
Anybody on the committee have anything?
Let's go with less.
Anybody from the peanut gallery? I entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, Frank?
Does the county accept credit card payments for taxes? Not yet.
Not yet.
If that, why not? Well, because I haven't gotten an RFP out there to get it done yet, and we're having some problems with the in-house software that's developed, and IT is recreating it. So once that gets done, the target date is the 1st of December. We'll be up and running hopefully at that time. Good, thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn? Conover? Claudia? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.